Okay, let's make this personal for a second. In a world that is just overflowing with information, what does it actually mean to lead these days? The answer isn't about getting more data, that's for sure. It's about a complete and fundamental shift in your role, away from being an information gatekeeper and toward becoming a context amplifier.
You know, this quote just absolutely nails it. For generations, a leader's power came from what they knew and others didn't, right? They held the keys, they had the connections, the secret context. That information gap, well, that was their currency. But what happens when that information gap just closes? Well, as you can see, the entire source of power shifts completely. You move from the stuff on the left, hoarding information, which just makes people dependent on you, to everything on the right, creating clarity, which actually enables autonomy. Power no longer comes from that asymmetry. It comes from creating a healthy, vibrant flow of understanding across your entire team.
So how do you actually do this? I mean, it's not just a mindset shift you can flip a switch on. It requires building 3 very specific capabilities. So let's break them down.
The journey kicks off with clarity. That gives you the foundation you need for courage, and all of that is sustained through long-term cultivation. Think of them like building blocks, you know? Each one is essential for the next. Let's take a closer look.
All right, first up, clarity. Look, in an age of total information overload, a leader's job is not to be just another source of data. It's to be the signal in the noise. You have to synthesize all that complexity and give your team a clear frame, focusing them on what really, truly matters. It's less about knowing everything and way more about creating a shared understanding.
And once you have that clarity, something really amazing happens. It unlocks the second capability, courage. Now hold on, this isn't about being reckless or just taking wild risks. It's about making bold, calculated decisions because you have a complete contextual understanding. When you can see the whole picture, you have the confidence to make those tough calls that other people, who are basically operating in the dark, might shy away from.
And finally, we get to cultivation. This is where leadership becomes truly powerful, almost generative. You stop being just a consumer of context, and you become a creator of it. By documenting your decisions, preserving the lessons you learn, and actively building your organization's institutional memory, you're not just leading for today, you are building the foundation for tomorrow's leaders.
So what's the payoff for you, personally, as the leader? Well, it's not just about team performance. It's about your own sustainability. This is a real personal transformation. Just imagine letting go of that constant anxiety and exhaustion that comes from trying to be the single source of truth for your entire team.
This right here, this is the source of so much leadership burnout. Cognitive overwhelm. That constant pressure to remember every single detail, connect every single dot in your head. But when you build a system of shared context, you get to offload that burden. The system becomes your partner, and it frees up your mental space.
And the result is this stark transformation. It's night and day. You shift from being the anxious, overwhelmed bottleneck you see on the left to becoming the liberated, focused enabler on the right. You're finally free to focus on the work that truly needs your leadership, things like vision, coaching, and culture, because the system is handling the context.
It might sound simple, but just think about what this really means for a second. How many leaders do you know who can truly go on vacation and completely disconnect? When you're the only keeper of the context, you just can't. But with a shared system, your team is empowered, even when you're offline. That's not just a nice to have, that is genuine freedom.
You fundamentally change your entire relationship with your team. You move away from this model of dependency where everyone has to funnel through you, and you become an enabler at the center of a self-sufficient team. Your role gets elevated from being a walking encyclopedia to being a true coach and a strategist.
Okay, now let's talk about something really, really powerful: legacy. This is one of the most underappreciated parts of context-aware leadership.
So many senior leaders feel this incredible weight. They've spent decades accumulating this deep, deep understanding and hard-won wisdom, and they know that when they leave, most of that knowledge, it just walks right out the door. And that feels like a loss, not just for the organization, but for them personally.
But what if it didn't have to be that way? This is where this idea of generational thinking comes in. Look at this timeline. A decision you make today, and you capture the why behind it, doesn't just inform your team next quarter. 5 years from now, it can guide a future leader you have never even met, helping them avoid the same mistakes. Your wisdom becomes institutionalized.
So ultimately, this is about way more than just efficiency. It's about legacy. It's about making sure your hard-won wisdom serves generations of colleagues you will never even meet, creating an enduring impact long after you're gone. Now that is truly meaningful work.
So, what's the invitation to all the leaders listening to this? I'll be honest, it's ambitious, but it's also absolutely necessary. Be the leader who transforms how your organization communicates. Be the one who stands up and says, we are not going to accept context loss as the norm anymore. The organizations that are going to win in the next decade, they won't be the ones with the best individual leaders. No, they'll be the ones where context-aware leadership is distributed at every single level.
Because when everyone has the context they need to lead with confidence, that's when real transformation happens. That's the vision, and that's the invitation. Be the context-ready leader who makes it all possible. The choice is yours.